What's up, 444? We are back with the DFS MVP podcast. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. I'm here with Davis Maddock and Pat Corraine as usual. We're going to go game by game. We're going to follow the order that I have in my tournament article at 444. So if you're not already signed up for 444 and you want to follow along, you can, of course, go find that article, sign up for 444, make sure that you are signed up so you can follow along with the article. I go in depth, game by game, breaking down each game, all the best plays. Before we get into this week, let's talk briefly about last week and last night. Man, what a fun game! We'll start with last week. Davis, how did last week go for you?
You know, all my individual player takes were right. Jaden Reed was, in fact, the key of the slate. Justin Jefferson scored a touchdown, as he does every single week. Kyren Williams was a pretty good play. Like, my takes were good. Unfortunately, the macro take of playing Kyler Murray was not good. So I made negative dollars in tournaments, which, you know, I think if you continually are nailing like the 11% owned guy who's the key of the slate, eventually you'll find your way into the right combo. So yeah. I'm not too discouraged.
Yeah, Jaden Reed was an awesome play last week. One that I was on as well, went pretty well. Pat, how did last week go for you overall?
Yeah, sort of similar to Davis, where Nico Collins was, someone I was very excited about. He was in a bunch of my lineups. I kind of forced I IKB'd a Stroud double, which felt like it was going to be really fun. They had like 1,800 penalties in that game. They think they literally had 5 holding penalties in that game. Felt like that could have gone even better than it did. But I kind of cashed that, not too anything exciting. Had a Darnold lineup, similar results. Had a Kyler lineup that I could have swapped to Jaden Daniels on. Everything would have fit very nicely, but I said no. Kyler or Marv, it's the key to the slate, baby. Yeah. So it didn't. It was. I had some good pieces. Had some lineups that did okay, but nothing came together. So similar week to Davis.
Did Kyler and Marv score in the first quarter again, or am I mixing up?
I think they did. Yeah.
I feel like
Kyler had 11 at the end of the first quarter and ended with 15.5.
Yeah, brutal run out there for Kyler. Did feel like a really good play. Last week was my first positive week in GPPs, which you can I only expect to turn a profit like 2 or 3 times a year on main slates. Like just you're going to lose more often than you will.
Yeah, if I'm wrong, how good is that profit? It's the whole thing. Yeah,
but you're playing very differently than Corraine and I. You're like playing like 100 lineups, like it's all from the computer. Like you're not like entering hand built teams in the SPY.
For the most part, that's true. I'll usually hand build like a couple teams each week and enter it into single entry stuff. I'm not playing like 150 lineups anymore. I've brought my volume way back the past couple years, just as more people are using Sims. It's a lot tougher. I don't want to have thousands of dollars on the line. So I'm playing, I think I probably play about 50 lineups a week in general. And I'll do like the $3.20 max, some lineups in the milli. But yeah, not playing nearly the same volume I used to. But most of it is going to be stuff that is generated using an optimizer. I probably end up hand building about 5 lineups each week. I also build some lineups on my Saturday show on that stream. I build 3 lineups with Scott Barrett. I end up with kind of a mix, but yeah, you're generally right. For the most part, end up with mostly optimizer lineups. Haven't really been using Sims, which I've been thinking about signing up for some Sims also, because there's obviously some value in that. Maybe do different lineup sets with different products would be kind of a fun way to do it. But yeah, mostly using an optimizer at this point. The big one that did work out last week for me was the George Pickens and Justin Fields stack, which that one
was nice. Pretty well. That one went real well, yeah.
Feels insanely bad to not be on Fields against the Colts. Like in retrospect, like
I know,
they're such a run funnel. Their run defense is so bad, and you don't take the best running quarterback in the NFL. Like, seems bad, but
yeah, it's also like Fields hadn't really shown us much before that game, so that was kind of the first time he really exploded. We knew it was in his bag, but hadn't shown it before last week. And then last night, how did you guys feel about last night for best ball for DFS? I mean, that was high scoring game. I have some like eliminator lineups that already have like 120 fantasy points. Pretty insane scoring last night. Did you have a lot of exposure to the Bucks and Falcons that did well?
I don't think so. I think because I wasn't a Mooney bro.
Yep.
So I think probably my guess is that game was net negative for me. Not a big Godwin big Godwin guy either.
Well, that worked out. Godwin was not great last night. I do have a lot of Godwin.
I have some Drake London bags that helps for sure. I guess you weren't tuning into the old Shipcast on Ship Chasing, Neil, because
good point.
we had a brutal.
You
1
guys-
yard.
you guys
I
had a
saw
pretty-
the
you guys
Bucky
had a pretty
Irving.
brutal beat.
It was the worst beat I think we've ever experienced.
You ended up being what, like 3 yards short on Evans?
We were 1 yard short. No, we got there on Evans. We were 1 yard short on Irving.
Yeah.
He obviously had the fumble. He goes 1 more yard there. We're good. He comes back in for an injured Rachaad White and has a hole and decides to sit down. So that was no fun. And then we go to overtime and they never get the ball. And actually, this part's pretty great. Pretty much everyone that tailed us on this got the Bucky line with 1 yard short. So 1 yard lower. So all of our viewers were hitting the same pick'em that we had, but we did not hit. So it was pretty brutal for the game to go that way. And we kind of felt it coming. We're like, Pete called it. He's like, this might be the most painful stream we've ever done if this doesn't actually hit. And sure enough, it was. But yeah, overall, it was a fun game. Just didn't love the dagger to the heart right at the end.
I had mine. You can tell me if this is worse or better. I had like Kyle Pitts laddered to 80 yards, so like a 3x multiplier. I had I had Evans touchdown on every one. I had Cousins laddered passing yards. I had Baker laddered passing touchdowns, like on every ticket. Like I was like ready to ship everything. But you know what I included on every one? Instead of Sterling Shepard fantasy points, which would have hit, Sterling Shepard yards.
Ooh. Yeah, got that touchdown to pay it off, but yeah, that is kind of brutal. I also didn't hit any of my cards last night. I think I had one that I missed out on Godwin's yardage by 1 yard, I believe. I was also with you on the missing by a yard, but I think that I had also missed another one on that. I was really in on Bijan last night. I think he was more banged up than I realized. I kind of thought they took him.
I hope so.
The injury. Yeah.
I hope he was real banged up.
I was gonna say if he's not banged up, I think we've
if
got
he's healthy, we're in trouble.
We've got 2 Kyle Pitts on the same team. If he's not banged up,
he got breathed on in the backfield and fell over at one point. I really hope there's a hamstring thing going on or something.
There has to be. He also still averaged like 5 yards per carry. He had like 60 yards on 12 carries or something like that. So he was just way better than Tyler Algier. He just didn't see the volume. I think probably an injury there that I knew it was that he had been limited earlier in the week, but since he was full go, I thought he was probably good. I would love to watch the Thursday night Ship cast at some point, but I'm always writing this article, the tournament strategy article. I'm still working on that usually on Thursday night, so I never have time to do anything. I can't even watch the games. I'm just all into the writing at that point, sadly. I did see, I think in the Ship Chasing Discord, maybe somebody was asking people to clip, or maybe it was on Twitter, asking people to clip your reaction, Pat, to I don't know what it was exactly, but he was saying, can somebody clip Pat's reaction here? I assume it was the Bucky Irving.
It might have been when we went to overtime. No, when we went to overtime, I was about as excited as I've ever been. I mean, we did. He nailed the kick. We're going to overtime.
Yeah.
Pete had already completely mushed another kick, the one that got blocked. And then somehow we got there. Like it was all happening, man. And then the overtime rolls. How about both team touches the ball? That'd be much better.
Yeah, that would be
much
more
better
fun.
if you have. Yeah, it was just more fun.
Yeah.
Better for everybody.
All right, enough about last week. Enough about last night. We can get into this. We are going to go game by game. Kind of nice. We're down to 10 games on this slate with 4 teams on bye, with the Vikings and Jets playing Sunday morning. We only have 10 games to talk about, so it might be a little bit quicker in the game by game. And again, we're going to go through the order that I have in my article. So we're starting with the Cleveland Browns at the Washington Commanders. The Browns have an implied team total of 20 points, which is ranked 20th on the week in terms of implied team total. Commanders implied team total 23.5. That's 8th best on the week. Davis, I'll start with you. Anybody standing out to you in this Browns Commanders game?
Yeah, both the running backs. Brian Robinson Jr. is like the 7th best running back play. Jerome Ford's like the 9th best running back play. And the Tyrone Tracy thing is going to mean that whatever running back you liked who is like secondary chalk, you're going to get a super ownership discount on them. So like if Brian Robinson Jr. projected to be 11% owned at noon on Friday, by Sunday morning, he's going to project to be like 6%. The Sims every single week say Amari Cooper is a good play. Deshaun Watson is $5,300 on DraftKings. This is the worst defense in the NFL. They're negative 0.3 EPA per play against pass plays, which is like, man, it's like unbelievable. It's like you can't even really imagine a secondary that bad. Shout out to Kyler Murray. I don't know if I can do it. I really don't know if I can use my American dollars on Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper. I know Cooper had the 80-yard touchdown called back by penalty last week. It just feels like, Watson probably has to run one in to get there. I don't know. And it's just like, then you have to watch him play, and watching him play is horrible. But Cooper is just like a certified good play. And Daniels is too, obviously.
Yeah, I feel like Cooper is one that I'm going to definitely get to. I'm gonna have to force in some Deshaun Watson, I think, just because of the matchup. I don't know, Pat. How do you feel about this game?
Yeah, I think every week you want to size your GPPs a little bit differently depending on like what you're thinking about doing. Like these ideas are going to fit better in maybe some more multi-entry stuff or whatever. I kind of tend to do pretty similar stuff each week, but what I might do this week is play in stuff so small that I don't even have to think about Deshaun Watson. That's the goal, to not be in a big enough field where he actually makes sense. Because I just don't want to do it, man. And he does look like on paper, he looks like a pretty good play. Cooper looks like a good play. You can do stuff on the other side. Robinson's interesting for sure. McLaurin's interesting. So I think there's actually a lot of interesting pieces in this game. I do wonder though if this could be a spot where Jaden Daniels struggles. I wrote up in the walkthrough on Legendary Upside that he is definitely a much better quarterback than maybe we were worried he was. As part, the big red flag on him was he was taking a lot of sacks. His sack to pressure rate was super high. That's something we've seen with guys like, like Justin Fields, but we've also seen it with guys like Christian Hackenberg and stuff where you're like, this dude just can't like read an NFL defense, or he can't execute an NFL offense, And so there was sort of two parts to this red flag with Daniels. Obviously, he can read an NFL defense and execute on offense. He has answered that question definitively. I think we can say even just with 4 games, but I do think if he gets pressured, it could lead to sacks. Like I don't think he's going to be awesome against pressure as an NFL quarterback, even though he's obviously a pretty good NFL quarterback. And this Browns pass rush is pretty good. So that's if I'm trying to find ways to not play this game, which I probably am. Jaden Daniels struggling against this pass rush would be one of the reasons.
Yep, I like that call. Yeah, I listed Jaden Daniels and Brian Robinson, Terry McLaurin as MME plays that I like. It is pretty tough for me to get to Daniels and McLaurin. I think looking at the ownership, they're actually getting a fair amount. So in a tough matchup, kind of felt like I had to write it up because they project well enough that like you should probably include them in a 150 set, but hard to really prioritize. Brian Robinson looks like a little bit better. The Browns have been 20th in terms of schedule adjusted PPR fantasy points allowed to running backs. So, sort of a better spot for the running game than the passing game in general. So some interest there. We also have Austin Eckler probably back this week. I don't know. There's no real priorities for me on the Commanders side. On the Brown side, I think I will get to some Deshaun Watson. I think even in 20 lineups, I probably get to a little bit of Deshaun Watson just because, again, the Coors Field spot against the Commanders, we talk about every week. Like you should always probably have one lineup just going against the Commanders with the opposing passing game. So I will have some Deshaun Watson. Amari Cooper, the obvious target, and I'll have more Amari Cooper than Deshaun Watson. I'll have him as a one-off some places. Also, minor interest, some interest in Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore, just because again the defense, the spot is so good. Jerry Jeudy 85.7% route participation, 29 targets on the year, pretty good role. And then Elijah Moore only 3,500 on DraftKings, 80% route participation, 17 targets on the year. I think that's a good enough role in this matchup at that price tag at like very little ownership that I'm going to consider a little bit of Elijah Moore here as well. Doesn't feel that great, but just as like large field tournament GPP dart throws, I think Jeudy and Elijah Moore slightly in play for me. Anything else on this game?
That's an interesting note on Elijah Moore for sure. The open score data on these receivers is pretty interesting. Amari Cooper is in the 5th percentile in open score. Jerry Jeudy, 33rd percentile. Elijah Moore, 89th percentile. So, he's not really drawing targets. He's at a 12% targets per route run, which is significantly worse than the other two guys. But he's running a lot of routes and he's getting open. So, against a bad defense, he is interesting.
Yeah. FF Doom asked, do you think the Browns feed Ford before Chubb returns?
It's definitely possible. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I probably won't get to Ford, but that could feel pretty dumb by 1:30 Central Time on Sunday afternoon. Just being like, well, he's got 17 carries against the Commanders. He scored twice. Of course.
Honestly, that's gonna happen. Like I won't have him, right? I won't have
I'll have Brian Robinson Jr. instead.
Yeah. But I already, it is 1:30 and Ford has scored twice, and I'm like, well, there's always week 6.
Yeah. I might have something. You guys both just conceded that it's going to happen. I feel like maybe you should play it. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, no, you can play it, but we have to not play it. Otherwise,
we not play it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You guys stay away. I will quietly play it, not tell anybody.
Yeah.
Too late for that. I had to bring up this note. Andrew says hand-built lineups from this show last week outperformed his Sims lineups by a mile. Yeah, we were pretty good. We were pretty good last week.
Yeah,
all right.
If you just turned it off when we were talking about Arizona, like you probably found.
Yeah.
Yep. Basically that was the one spot that really disappointed. All right. Ravens at Bengals. The Ravens have an implied team total of 25.75. That is third best on the week. The Bengals 23.25. That is tied for the 9th best implied team total on the week. One of the higher games totals on the slate. Pat, what do you like in the Ravens Bengals game?
So I really like this as a spot for the Bengals to kind of start clicking here in the way that we expect them to. Through Jamar Chase, going through T. Higgins. Jamar Chase has dealt with a ton of double coverage this season, but he's still been pretty efficient, not like otherworldly efficient, but 2.10 yards per route run is a good mark. He has a 99th percentile double coverage rate. 48% of his routes he's seeing double coverage. That should go down as we get, T. Higgins showing that he's getting back to full health. We saw last week that Mike Gesicki's targets completely dried up, just a 4% target share. He's still only running half the routes. Andre Yoshibas has not been able to post any kind of yardage efficiency here, 0.89 yards per route run. And this is, I think, a pretty decent matchup for the passing game. The Ravens are dead last in preventing explosive passing plays, the 21st in EPA allowed per dropback. They don't have a great pass rush. The Bengals have actually protected Burrow really well this year. They're first in pressure rate allowed. So the very best team in preventing pressures. And the pressures that they're allowing are not getting there super quickly. Ravens only 27th in time to pressure. So I think this is a good matchup for the Bengals to be able to attack downfield. And we've got Chase and Higgins, hopefully consolidating targets again. So I like playing it through Burrow stacks.
Yep. Makes sense to me. Davis, how do you feel?
So I hate T. Higgins. Like I'm a noted, maybe not as much as Sam Sherman, but I'm not a T. Higgins guy.
Safe to say not as much as Sam Sherman.
It's definitely a T. Higgins week.
It is.
T. Higgins is 6,000.
Yeah.
Chase is 8,000. He's got better targets per route run, obviously more total target volume since coming back. And the super annoying thing about the Bengals is they don't care if you take Jamar Chase away. You saw this against the Chiefs. You saw it last week. If you shade the safety over there, they don't move him around. They don't put him in motion. They don't, do anything creative. They're just like, all right, Chase, go beat your guy. And the 3 times a game that you beat your guy, you get the ball. I mean, Higgins is going to come preloaded. Someone in the chat just said, yeah, he gets 6 for 80. But then if he gets 7 for 111 and 1, then he's the one that you need. You just kind of need him to, because Chase, his kind of like Metcalf, like his good plays come out of nothing, like a super acrobatic back of the end zone, like just like a really athletic play. I'll play T with Burrow. I'll play T with Lamar. I'll play T with no one. I'm gonna be. I don't know if I'll have him on every team, but like half my teams probably I'll play T.
I noticed, Davis, that in your write-up in the expert survey, you also mentioned playing Brandon Ayuk in a stack. Are you just how is your identity right now? I mean, you're playing T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk. Are you just having kind of a crisis?
It's really bad. But
Yeah.
like because the thing with me is I know when I'm being overreactionary. Like I know when my take has gone too far. And like when I was quoting stats about this is 4 straight games with less than 50 yards for Ayuk. That's the first time. That's as many games as all of last year that he had with less than 50 yards. Like, I know I'm going too far. And the same is true with T. Like, they're just supremely good plays, and everyone's sick of them. Everyone is sick of them.
Yeah, everyone's sick of it.
Everyone's sick of them.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. T.
Higgins. Drew Dinkmeyer flag planted T. Higgins last week. Pain again. It's always pain with T. Higgins. No one can predict the T. Higgins weeks, but it's a T. Higgins week, guys. It's T. Higgins week. Yeah. The other thing I like about him in this matchup, the Ravens not very good at defending the deep middle of the field. We haven't seen T. Higgins be targeted all that much in that part of the field this year, but last year we saw that quite a bit. He was a 76th percentile in the percentage of his targets going 10 plus yards and over the middle. So that's obviously well, maybe not obviously, but we see a lot of yak from those targets. They're very helpful for generating big plays. So Chase gets targeted there too, but this could be a good matchup, especially if this double team stuff keeps up with Chase, where Higgins could maybe be feasting over the middle a little.
Yep. And then on the Ravens side of the game, I mean, Derrick Henry just taking our lunch, all of us best ball bros who are 0 RB. Derrick Henry has been awesome.
Just double down, man. Just double down. I mean, what you're not gonna get back to even anyway. So what's the point?
What it actually is that when a guy ages, when he's 30, he should move up a couple rounds. This is what I'm learning from this year. Yeah. Saquon Barkley, when he's 33, should be the 101. For now, second round pick.
It's been rough. Now Henry gets a great matchup with the Bengals. He's very expensive though. He is up to 7,800 on DraftKings, 9,200 on FanDuel, 80 carries already on the year. That is just elite usage for Derrick Henry. Generally going to be used more in games where they're playing from ahead. They are favored in this game, even on the road. How are we feeling about the Ravens side of the game? Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, anybody else you want to talk about? Either of you, if you have thoughts.
I've got a spicy one. I think this is likely week because the Ravens have basically been refusing to pass. Well, not refusing. They just haven't needed to. Like, they've been so efficient running the ball. Lamar only had 18 dropbacks last week. Like, they're running the triple option. It's insane. I don't think they're going to be able to get away with that against Cincinnati. I mean, it might be jokes on me, and they might be up 14-0 before, like, Joe Burrow gets to take a breath, and this would be a bad play. But it does totally obfuscate actually just how dead Mark Andrews is.
Gosh.
Like, like Andrews is beyond dead. Likely is like very clearly the move receiving tight end, and Andrews is the blocker now. And
Charlie Kolar would like a word.
Well, they're doing.
I don't even know if he's a blocker, man.
This is like a more macro thing. Teams are doing this where they're bringing in their backup tight ends to be the run blockers. So like they're changing tight ends from their 11 personnel to their 12 personnel, where the 11 personnel tight end leaves the field, which is what is happening with Andrews. Yeah. Anyway, likely he's going to get like 80% of the snaps, 65% of the routes, and he's going to score a touchdown this week. And I think like any tight end that gets 42 yards and a touchdown, pretty good chance of being in the optimal is just kind of the way the position works. And I really like likely. And you could punt with Eric All also this week, 2,700. He plays about 17 snaps a game, but he runs a route on all of them. And he leads tight ends in targets per route run right now.
Those are some spicy takes. So I'm also hearing you're not talking about Derrick Henry. Is that just is 7,800 too much for you?
I'd rather play Kyron. I'd rather play Jordan Mason, and the thing about getting buried is just get buried. Just don't fight it. Just let yourself be buried.
What you want to do is around 2:30, you want to just compare your lineup to the guy at the top who has Jerome Ford and Derrick Henry. You don't want to play either of those guys.
Yeah, you just want to be like that guy. That guy.
He didn't listen to DFS MVP. Yeah.
Then you set your afternoon lineups.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's probably what I'm going to do. Derrick Henry, he is a bit of a scary fade if you're fading him because Todd Monken has shown real commitment to the run this year. If you look at their game script, like they haven't been in a ton of positive game script. I have a chart where I break teams into 4 groups, teams that are passing and passing game scripts. It's kind of like your Browns. They're always in bad game script, but they pass a lot. You have teams that are dictating the pass. It's like kind of the Seahawks actually this year, a little bit like that. Traditionally, the Chiefs. You got teams that are dictating the run. That'd be like the Lions this year, the Saints. But then teams that are like refusing to pass, teams that this is where you almost always found the Arthur Smith Falcons. Like they're in scripts where you expect them to pass and they just aren't. And the Ravens are actually in that part of this chart where they're actually running like stubbornly. And so it's hard to see while Derrick Henry could be scripted out of the game, it's going to like take some work from the Bengals side. So I think, he's not going to catch passes. He's going to need big plays. He's going to need touchdowns to beat you on DraftKings, but he definitely could. So I think he's very much in play. I don't know if I'll end up playing him, but he is a pretty good play, I think. Even at this price, I personally like Zay Flowers a little bit here. Zay Flowers is pretty interesting to me because I think we could see the passing game click a little bit. The Bengals pass defense is only 25th in success rate, dropback success rate against. They're 25th in EPL out per dropback. And Zay Flowers, he's got 20% targets per route run. He's got a 25% target share. Those are pretty good. His first read target rate is only 8%. We're seeing a lot of checkdowns in the offense. Half of Justice Hill's targets have been checkdowns. We're seeing lots of scrambles from Lamar Jackson. We know that like the primary design of a lot of these plays isn't being executed, and it's almost certain that those are potential Zay Flower targets because Mark Andrews isn't even on the field, so it's not to him, right? So who else could it be to? So Zay Flower. So if the offense clicks, Zay Flowers, I think suddenly could see a lot more volume and be hitting for a big day. So I actually think he's a really strong play, especially if you're betting. Like if I was thinking about bringbacks for like Joe Burrow stuff, to me, Henry's in play, but it would probably be Zay Flowers.
What about Lamar? Would you stack it all or just have the one off?
I think Lamar Flowers is definitely in play as well.
Yeah. How would we feel about Devontae Adams going to the Ravens? Devontae Adams posted a picture of Edgar Allan Poe on his Instagram.
Literally nothing worse, dude. Can just one thing go my way in best ball season? Just one.
It's been rough. Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, just the Davis best ball.
If I get to 16% advance rate, Chase Brown finishes like the overall running back one.
Right.
Hit me up if you're in San Diego if we get to 16% advance rate because we're throwing a party, baby. we're renting out a bar.
It's not looking good right now. Yeah. But the bye weeks are here. So bye week bros getting their vengeance now.
Yeah, bye week bros.
All right. Terry, I don't usually answer season-long questions, but because Terry did send a super chat, I guess best add Roshan Johnson.
Spears.
I assume that's Trey Tucker or Tyjae Spears. Yeah, Tyjae Spears. Yep.
Yeah.
Pat, any difference? Okay. Tyjae Spears there. Okay. Next game.
I could see Roshan if you got depth and you're going to hold a guy a while, then I actually might be Roshan for me. But Spears probably the better pickup if you're looking for production anytime soon.
The offensive line just so bad for the Bears. Man, Roshan, that was one that I'm shocked that it didn't hurt me more than it did last week because I really leaned into the Roshan potential bell.
I sprinkled in. Yeah, I did that too. Yeah.
And he scored a touchdown, so he salvaged it a little bit. But man, that was just they lied to us. I mean, it was just one ESPN insider, so can't really blame the team for that. But man,
I sectioned that off. I did 5 Millie Maker lineups, and I just did like all like Bears stuff that included some Roshan, and then I just like kept that away from like the single entry stuff I normally.
Smart, yeah. Keep that away from the small field stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Bills at Texans should be a fun game. Really, really close. The Bills have an implied team total of 24.25. That's tied for the 5th best on the week. The Texans 23.25. That's tied for 9th best on the week. Davis, are you doing anything with this Bills Texans game?
It's funny. The more I go through stuff, I think we're actually going to see CJ Stroud and non-Nico players come in like crazy low. Like I think you could turn the cards over on Sunday and see CJ Stroud at 7%, Nico at 22%, but then take your pick of Diggs or Dell at Dell at like 3%, maybe not even, and Diggs at like 9%, something like that on DraftKings. And let me tell you one thing I do know about Stephon Diggs. If you think he has not been in the ear of Bobby Slowick and D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud and whoever their quarterbacks coach is since they got off the plane on Sunday night about getting a touchdown in this game, you do not know ball.
And if you think he's going to stop being in their ear after he scores one touchdown.
I generally don't like this kind of analysis because it implies too much control on the part of the pass catcher. But because I know that he's already told these guys, like, I'm going to be miserable to be around if you do not give me the ball here.
Yeah.
I legitimately believe that Stephon Diggs scores a touchdown here and is like an outsized part of their game plan in this game against Buffalo.
I've spent nearly a decade cultivating a reputation as the most petulant wide receiver in the league. And I am making it clear.
But no, it'll be totally fine if this is the get right Tank Dell game. That won't bother me at all. It's totally fine.
I won't.
Yeah, right. I like that. Yeah. I totally missed the revenge spot here when I was doing my write-up. So
we've already had one. It was his first game back in Minnesota. And by the way, in that game, 3 targets in their first 15 plays, which is the scripted stuff. I mean, it writes itself.
Oh, the scripted plays are it's gonna be like run Diggs, run Diggs. That's
well, they actually did a cool play with him last week, the one where he scored the rushing touchdown.
They did, yeah, that was cool.
That was. I mean, not only FF Doom saying pretty sure their safety's out, buddy. Like 9 of their defensive starters are out. Like not even questionable, just like out for this game.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to update my write up a little bit because I had not factored in some of those defensive players missing. Had not factored in.
He's been good anyway. He's second in ESPN open score. Like he's just been good. Anyway.
Well, he is good. Yeah, it's just the tough matchup kind of scared me off it a little bit. But they do have a pretty high implied team total, so maybe I need to lean into the Texans a little bit more. What about Cam Akers? Another player I didn't write up because I didn't really know the status of Joe Mixon. Sort of, I mean, very, very much a run funnel so far this year. This Bills defense. Now, of course, we have a lot of defense players up, but they are 32nd in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to running backs. So they've allowed the most schedule adjusted fantasy points to running backs. 1
fantasy point to British Brooks, 4.5 to Daria Ogunbowale, 3.5 to JJ Taylor, 8.5 for Cam Akers.
I mean that's fair. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah.
All right. So you don't think I need to add that to my write up?
No, and there's a larger lesson to be learned here for the people who are about ready to play $5,700 Trey Sermon, which is that, like, whenever you think the runway is as easy as possible for a bad running back, there's always some running back you've never heard of who's ready to play long down and distance. Like, I don't know who it is for the Colts, but you're about to learn a name on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a name learning situation. We also got a quote. Steph Miller shared it with me on Discord that it's going to be running back by committee, and that was from Steichen. The quote was, quote, "It'll be running back by committee this week." So they're pretty straightforward. So I'm a little nervous about the Sermon stuff as well, for sure.
Yeah, that's that is a good note. Anything from the Bills side of the game? We have Khalil Shakir is out for this game, which sort of makes it interesting to me. The Texans, honestly, I thought they had been more of a pass funnel than they have been. They have not really been a pass funnel. I think they've kind of shown vulnerabilities in the secondary, but has not really shown itself as a pass funnel yet. I still think they can be exploited. The Bills tied for the 5th highest implied team total on the slate. Nobody really getting ownership. Are you guys doing anything with the Bills in this game?
Yeah, one of the big IKB spots for me, I think, this week is going to be on Dalton Kincaid, who missed some snaps in week 3. He was checked for concussion. The field thinks he stinks. They're completely out. We have this weird. He only had 59% route participation last week against the Ravens, but they're getting blown out in that game. Dawson Knox was only at 35%, so it wasn't like he still had a pretty big lead on Knox there. And then you talk about a lead on Knox. Kincaid's at 22% targets per route run, which is pretty good. That's 89th percentile for a tight end this year. Dawson Knox is at 8%. And yards per route run, Dalton Kincaid's at 1.69. Knox is at 0.6. I think that if we look back to weeks 1 and 2, in terms of route participation, that's probably more indicative of what we'll see this week. And Kincaid was at 83% week 1, 75% week 2. So maybe he's not going to be like, in the almost 90%, like the super elite tight end role, but I think he's going to have a full-time role, especially with Shakir out. And then the Texans have not been that great at defending the deep middle of the field, or even 10 plus yards and over the middle of the field, which is where Shakir was probably going to see a decent amount of his targets playing out of the slot. And so that potentially opens up more for Kincaid there, which is a weakness of the defense. So yeah, I think Kincaid is pretty interesting, especially if sentiment has kind of fully turned against him.
Look, Kyle Pitts got to 78 yards, so I guess anything is possible. 78 of 500. 78 yards out of 500. What's the market share there?
Yeah, it's not great. less than 20%. I know that much.
Yeah.
Do that math. I like that analysis for Kincaid. I was thinking Keon Coleman at 4,700. I mean, it's maybe a little bit thin. I think I like it. I probably like it better than I should, just based on what he has shown so far. But 4,700 on DraftKings. I think he only has like 11 targets on the year or something like that.
He's
But he
not
was
that different than like me playing Leggett every single week.
True. Yeah.
It's just
he's
like
my
Leggett.
Leggett.
I think Leggett might be better. Is where I'm at now. But if
you might be right.
If Keon Coleman got there, I'm definitely not surprised. But it just feels like, I don't know. He feels kind of MVS-y to me. He feels DJ Sharkey to me. Like you can kind of see it, and there are plays.
Now, does MVS also feel MVS-y to you?
Right.
Well, yeah. What do you do if you're Joe Brady? Do you without Shakir? Do you just play Curtis Samuel a ton, or do you just go, you know what, my 3 wide receivers are MVS, Mac Hollins, and Keon Coleman?
Yeah,
that would be.
I assume Curtis Samuel plays more.
That would be really good for Kincaid.
If he does that, Kincaid is a jam. Yeah.
Well, because Samuel's got that turf toe thing, so is he ready to be out there a bunch?
That is my thought, is that basically he's just like Ben getting healthy. His routes have increased every week. Every week he's played more, and Hollins and MVS have played a little bit less, and Shakir's actually played a little bit less, which is interesting.
I am seeing a Kincaid snowflake and Samuel scoring like 12 points by halftime. That I did just see that. So
dude, I got Dalton Kincaid at 4%. The field's totally over it.
Yeah.
Why does
Kurt Samuel
Why does Kurt Samuel have 6 receptions at half?
It's one of like the Bills have tied for 5th best implied team total on the slate. The Texans have an offense that is expected to push it, so they should have to play the whole game. Like, this feels like a spot where there should be Bills that we really like here, with Khalil Shakir out, the leader in route participation, the leader in targets for the team on the season. Somebody should look pretty good here. So Pat says Kincaid. I like that call. Also tight end eligible, which is, it's pretty thin tight end slate. Like, there are a few that I really like, but there's really not that many that I love. There's not, doesn't get that deep. So I think Kincaid is a good shout out. Coleman for me is at least interesting. Maybe it's Curtis Samuel. I don't know. It's one of those spots where I don't feel that strongly about it, but I'm going to lean into Coleman a little bit. That's going to be my bet, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And Kincaid, actually, those two for me.
I'm also looking forward to when I see Kincaid score a touchdown late in the third quarter, and then realize that it's actually a backup offensive tackle.
Or Dawson. It's actually Dawson Knox.
Yeah. Could be. Maybe they go more 12 personnel with Shakir out. I don't know. It's
that's probably what the answer is. Probably they go to like 40% 12 personnel, and
that'd be great for Kincaid.
Yeah.
True. Anything else from this game?
I mean, James Cook, I think is definitely pretty solid. He's decently expensive, but he's got the receiving role for him is pretty good. He's at 1.74 yards per route run. That's RB5. 11% target share isn't amazing, but Brady has shown a willingness to throw to him since taking over there. And if you're looking for a guy who can help replace kind of quicker targets in the offense, Cook could be that guy.
Yep, that makes sense. All right. Colts and Jaguars, another pretty interesting game with some pretty bad defenses. The Colts have an implied team total of 21.75. This, of course, this could have updated now that we almost certainly have Anthony Richardson out and Joe Flacco starting. Not sure how that's going to affect the implied team total, but as of the writing, 15th on the weekend, the Jaguars 24.25, tied for 5th best on the weekend. Going back to Pat, who do you have interest in this Colts Jaguars game?
I have a lot of interest in the pieces in this game. The Jaguars, I kind of did this whole write up on them, just like frustrated at how they are not passing a lot on first down. They're being very conservative on first down, running the ball. They don't have a very good running game. They have the running game is also not consistent. It's like this boom bust running game. So it's like they're putting Trevor Lawrence in bad spots by doing this. And so from that perspective, it's tough to get super excited about the Jaguars because I don't think they're a particularly well-coached team. On the other hand, you look at Trevor Lawrence's profile, and he is attacking downfield at a high rate. And, he's just not really being efficient on his downfield profile. But, like, it's the type of profile where if he got a good matchup, which he is getting this week, where, things could turn around pretty quickly. They're using him on play action. So although they're running too much on first down, he's got a pretty good play action rate. He's got a 10.6 ADOT, which is one of the deepest in the league. He's got an average depth of completion of 8 yards, which is pretty deep. His completion percentage over expected is -9%. So you're kind of betting on him to be like aggressive, maybe hit some big plays on play action, and just like step it up with the accuracy, which seems like a pretty good bet in a good matchup. Especially if we're going to have Joe Flacco on the other side, who I think kind of tightens up the range of outcomes where, they could just flop with Richardson, or they could be awesome, but they'll probably be really run heavy with Richardson. They'll be probably a little less run heavy with Flacco. And those like scenarios where the Colts just cannot execute and sustain drives, those types of outcomes are reduced with Flacco, and also brings into play guys like Josh Downs, and makes Pittman more interesting. Some of these like on the Colts side, you've got the most interesting plays are kind of more PPR style receivers in Pittman and Downs. So Flacco obviously makes those guys a lot more interesting. So I like Brian Thomas a fair amount here, and I like the Colts PPR style receivers, especially Josh Downs with Joe Flacco in.
Yep, I like that. Davis, how about you?
Downs and Pittman, they had 18 targets in 3 quarters from Flacco last week. The Jags lead the NFL in percentage of snaps played in man defense, which is just like perfect for what those guys do. You look up PPR scam in the dictionary, and you've got a Shane Steichen coached offense with Joe Flacco and Josh Downs. It's like, you want to talk about the guy who could have 6 receptions by half with Trey Sermon. Flacco could complete 35 passes for 198 yards in this game, and MPJ and Downs would both scam their way into like 20 plus points, And then I actually have 2 flag plants on the other side, like a 4% owned ETN and like maybe like a 9% owned Brian Thomas Jr. ETN, it's like everyone gets it. Yeah, he stinks. No one likes him. But this is like the nutted matchup that we got Najee Harris to be 35% owned against this defense last week. Najee Harris. It's like the most extreme run funnel in the NFL. Denny actually just had a good article on Roto-World about this, about how much the Colts want teams to run against them. So I will be talking about another snowflake play. I will be jamming ETN's 8.8 snowflake points into my lineup.
But you'll have the 2 fire emoji plays on the other side in Pittman and Downs, who are going to combine for 14 receptions.
Yes, yeah, it's beautiful.
So neither of you, and you already kind of talked about why, but neither of you is interested in Trey Sermon here because it's a running back by committee.
It's just like, how does he beat you? He's got to score twice. That's how he beats you. 18 rushes, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns. If you think he can do that, play him. I like Tracy like so much better. I like Hubbard at 6,100, even at his ownership, way better. There's like Josh Jacobs is 6,400. So it's like I like him way better. It's not really necessary. Without Tracy, I really would have been pondering it more. But if I'm going to accept a 6-point floor from my running back play, I'd rather pay 4,300 than 5,700.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and it's like I don't feel that good about the touch projection. Like I feel okay about it, but I think I'd feel better if Richardson was playing because then at least I'm like, well, I'm going to get the 2 down boost, and he's probably like Sermon's not getting targeted much either way.
No, I disagree with this. Sermon being in is way better for him because he could just get 5 checkdowns that he never would have gotten with Richardson.
But it can be like Goodson and stuff on passing downs.
It could. We literally don't know. Like that's like unknowable right now. But I think the range is better without Richardson.
You're probably right because we don't know. Maybe he is playing on some of those passing plays. I mean, it certainly helped Taylor. Taylor was getting more.
He was playing passing downs when Taylor was active. It was the 4th quarter against the Packers.
Yeah.
Taylor didn't play a snap.
Yeah, I think I'll have a little bit of Sermon. I was pretty bullish on him earlier in the week. I kind of got the impression this summer that if Taylor went down, they were just going to lean into Sermon, just the way they were talking about him this summer. So the fact that they're now saying it's a running back by committee, that obviously makes sense that it should be. Like, I don't think Sermon is that kind of talent that you just want to lean on, but I was more
18th round Evan Hull drafters just drew an out. He's still on the Colts practice squad, and I'm assuming he will be called up for this game.
I had so much Hull last year, so that wouldn't benefit me this year as much. With you
if ownership doesn't get there on Sermon, I do think he's interesting. Like, if I can play this low owned, you're
going to get him more at like 15% than 27%.
That actually does feel okay to me.
That feels better to me. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Great matchup, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Do we think Evan Ingram is playing this game?
Sounds like he's getting close. He would be fine. And if he doesn't, Strange.
I think one of the tight ends is playable. Not a huge priority there.
I like Thomas the most on the Jaguars side, just because like he's already even with all these guys, and he was. Remember how he was raw and not like it was going to take him a while. It hasn't.
Yeah.
So we could look at kind of secondary breakout type stuff with him in the near future. He's my favorite way to play the passing game for the Jag side.
Also, Christian Kirk also there, I think, is in play here. Anybody else you guys want to talk about?
No.
Okay. Carolina Panthers at Chicago Bears. Panthers have an implied team total of 18.75. That's tied for 23rd best on the week. Bears implied team total 22.25. That is 14th best on the week. I forget where. I think I'm back to Davis now. I think Davis. Anybody you like on the Panthers or the Bears?
Hubbard, Deontay Johnson. Although thankfully, all the insane value has got me off of like having to play Deontay Johnson. Like, I'm paying $400 more for Jaden Reed than needing to play Deontay Johnson.
True.
Although Deontay Johnson is fine. Hubbard, Hubbard, 2020, I wanted him to leave Oklahoma State early, and like get in the supplemental NFL draft because I was like so excited for him to play. He's pretty good. He's pretty good player. Very cromulent $6,100 running back play. I think I am done wasting money on Bear stacks for the time being, other than revenge. DJ Moore. First game against the Panthers since they traded him.
That's right.
Now, I wouldn't put DJ Moore in the category of being a diva wide receiver, but there's that stuff going around about how he sits by himself on the bench all game and he's the first one off the field and is like not talking to his teammates. I don't know what that's all about.
I don't like that. I want him talking. Once you get to the point where you're not talking anymore, that seems bad.
Crane, I kind of had the other take, and this might just be because I'm a big DJ Moore bag defender and I've been doing this since he was 21 years old. My read was he's just sick of playing on shitty football teams. Like every team this guy's been on has been terrible, and he's just like, this was supposed to be different. Caleb was supposed to change. It was supposed to, my world. I was supposed to see rainbows. I was supposed to see in color for the first time. I can't believe this is happening to me again. Like he's just pissed off.
So DJ Moore, he's got the Luke Getsy. He's watching Luke Getsy tape, and he's like, all right, we got rid of him. He puts on the Shane Waldron. How hard do you think he slammed down his phone watching that? He's just. God, that had to be a rough revelation.
Show him the JSN route chart from last year to this year, and he's just like, my God.
Or DJ
Moore. He's running it. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I debated whether I was going to stop losing money on the Caleb Williams stacks this week. I think I'm going to try it again. I think I'm going to lose money on Caleb Williams once again this week.
Every week.
I know he put up 19 fantasy points a couple weeks ago. He's just had like a great string of matchups. It's been like the best possible string of matchups for the Bears. Gets now like this defense, I think, is just so bad overall that man, they need to be able to score here. So I think I'm going to lose money on Caleb Williams once again this week. DJ Moore, I think, makes a lot of sense. We'll lean into that revenge narrative. Keenan Allen also second with a 21.2% target share for the Bears, so has been their kind of wide receiver 2 when healthy. What about DeAndre Swift?
Yeah.
Anything
Well,
else you guys want to talk about
I'm
here?
there with you. I'm going to lose money on this too. The Caleb Williams improvement has been pretty striking over the last couple weeks. Just looking at success rate in terms of the percentile, he's delivered 10th against the Titans, 13th in week 2 against the Texans, then 48th and up to 78th last week. And that's been accompanied by improvements in EPA per play, 9th, 14th, 35th, 56th. So we're seeing Caleb Williams. He's still not where we want to be, especially in efficiency, but he's getting, more consistent each week. And that should lead to, if this keeps up, we're going to get what we were hoping for in the preseason at some point. Of course, there's no guarantee to keep up, but I'm betting on it to do that this week against pretty soft matchup. Panthers defense, you can definitely beat them through the air. And then, I talk about Trevor Lawrence's aggressive downfield profile. We are seeing the same thing with Caleb Williams. He has a 16% deep pass rate. He has an 8.4 ADOT. Williams has the highest differential between his average depth of target and average depth of completion in the league right now. And I went back and looked at the league leaders each year.
Because he keeps missing layup 17-yard touchdowns.
Right. So last year, the leader in this stat was Will Levis. The year before was Marcus Mariota. The year before was Mike Glennon. The year before that was Joe Flacco with the Jets. So just a bunch of prairie yard chuckers. And obviously that's what Williams is, except Josh Allen led the league in this metric in his rookie year. And then Aaron Rodgers led it in 2019.
Kind of very similar vibes where you can see the tools. You can see, on some plays, you totally see it. And then on other plays, you're like, I have no idea what he was even attempting to do.
Yeah. But he's trying to do stuff that would be very good for us if it worked.
Yeah, I did want to make this point on this show. Jaden, how many passes of 20 or more air yards do you think Jaden Daniels has thrown? In your mind, how many do you think?
5.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, it's 8. Because I thought because we've all just crowned Jaden Daniels as he's so much better than Caleb. He's the greatest rookie quarterback ever. It's 8 passes, But
he's completing them all.
That's not his fault, though. Yeah, that's the offense.
No, I'm not saying it's his fault. I think Caleb would be succeeding in this offense that they've drawn up for Jaden Daniels. Just very simple, paint by numbers. I don't know if he'd be playing as well, and he certainly wouldn't be running as well, which is the big thing that Jaden is doing. But I just when Caleb Williams is 21 years old, when Jaden Daniels was 21, he was sucking at Arizona State University. It's just there's a lot left to come from Caleb.
Yeah.
And DeAndre Swift did not lose his job last week. He was at 63% of snaps. That was up from 54% in week 3. He had a very productive day, 93 yards on the ground and a touchdown, 72 yards and 7 receptions through the air. He still looks terrible by the season-long numbers. He's awful in success rate, rush yards over expected, all that stuff. But he has a receiving role, and I think he's going to be the lead back again this week, and it's a pretty good matchup on the ground as well. So I don't know, can I do Swift and Caleb stuff? Swift is 5,700. That's, and I'm getting a cheap quarterback. So I think DJ Moore's my favorite of the receivers, but Keenan Allen's in play too. But that stuff makes me a little nervous because I'm I really don't know which receiver would step up here. But Swift helping me fill, a cheap running back spot correlated with Caleb seems like an interesting start.
Yeah, probably involved enough in the passing game. Would you do just that stack, only DeAndre Swift as a stack partner, or would you include somebody else?
I probably will end up including Keenan or Moore, but
yeah, that would be my lean. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, man, I never feel great about DeAndre Swift. I was so much more excited to play Roschon Johnson when he was going to be the starter. But yeah, I think at 5,700, I think he projects better than Trey Sermon as of the last I checked. Very, very close in terms of projection, but great matchup there. Looks like a game that we can exploit a little bit. I did want to, I meant to bring this up while we were talking about the last game. P asked, I love the Colts and Jags game, but according to weather forecast, it's calling for rain the whole time. Does that concern you when stacking this game? I believe you only really see a big difference when there's heavy winds. Yeah, so I think just rain, probably not enough to.
The only thing that matters is when it's a clear spot where the coach is going to change their philosophy. So Nathaniel Hackett with the Jets, he's oh my God, I feel a light mist.
Let's
Better
run
dial it back. Better
Yeah,
dial it back, buddy.
Yep.
It's also, it looks like it says, I think 49% chance of rain when I'm looking at for this game. So, yeah, I guess keep an eye on it. But yeah, winds, and if it's like pouring, that's when, yeah.
Yep. Anything else from Bears Panthers?
I don't think so.
All right. This one should be quick. We have the Dolphins at the Patriots. The Dolphins have an implied team total of 17.75. The Patriots 18.75. That's tied for 23rd. Dolphins 27th out of 28th in terms of implied team total on the slate. Are either of you playing anything from this game? I guess I can go to, I think it's Pat first, this one.
Yeah, the Sims will actually break when they try to include this game. No, I don't think there's anything. I guess Patriots defense would probably be the best play
that's a good one
in this game. 2,900. Ramondre, I would not be touching. I think his, whatever the input volatility on him is to the downside with the 4 fumbles. You won in each game. I'm just personally going to be rooting for the Dolphins here. Mike McDaniel, please. We need your help.
Pull your head out of your ass, Mike.
Yeah, what is going on, Mike?
Yeah, and get an embarrassing loss on the books here for the Patriots, so we can get Drake May in the game.
That's right. Yeah.
Would the triple option with Tyreek at quarterback and A-Chain and Waddle as the wing backs score more points and be more efficient on offense than what the Dolphins did against the Titans?
Undoubtedly,
it would be worse. Yeah.
It just would be.
It would just be better. I guess Ingold would have to get like 13 carries in that game, and it'd still be better.
It'd be fun. Yeah. Got to try something there.
Could you teach NFL players the triple option in a week? Probably the offensive line, they'd be lost. They'd mess it up every play. But if they did know, it would be pretty fun. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Mike McDaniel, known to be an offensive genius. I've been kind of hoping that he's going to figure something out. So maybe they'll do it this week.
Thing is Neil, he got too fancy last week. So
yeah,
there's guys like this. Shanahan will do this. You'll see these guys who are almost too smart when their backs are kind of against the wall. They think the way out of the situation is, I'm going to design the perfect play. I'm going to design 15 of the perfect plays. I'm going to call those perfect plays, and then we're going to score. But then you realize your quarterback doesn't know the plays. Your offensive line doesn't know the plays. The running backs, there were 3 times Huntley snapped the ball, and his teammates were not lined up properly, so they got a penalty. So you're 10 yards back on that. What you need to do, Mike, is just chill out. You need to run halfback dive, halfback sweep, wide receiver screen, and then call the play where Tyreek runs in a straight line. You do that, you're going to get to 17 points, and you might get a win here.
And there's different kinds of sharp coaches. Like, you've got like a Belichick, right? A Belichick week to week is just going to identify how to play this matchup and like change up what he's doing. McDaniel does not strike me like that at all. Like, he needs a lot of time. Like, he strikes me as like, after the season end, he goes like traveling around the world and like finds plays from all over the place and comes back, and he's got this new trick. He's got some cheat motion thing. But then like when teams figure that out by week 6, he's like, well, those were all my ideas.
Yeah, it does feel like every year they're awesome at the beginning of the year. By the end of the year, they're just not able to keep up anymore. Yeah, you're probably right. I feel like there was like a Ted Lasso episode where he was like, doing weird stuff, trying to come up with plays and like getting. It feels like the same kind of thing with Mike McDaniel.
The trick play, the trick play episode. Yeah. Right, but once they've been used, I mean, that's it.
It's okay. Yeah. We did them.
We did them.
The only players I think the Patriots, that's a good call up. Patriots defense, maybe Dolphins defense in play against the Patriots too. But Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, to me, like, sort of interesting. I agree with you. Like, there is a lot of the downside risk is really risky. Like, they could have 0 points, negative points. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson fumbling every game these days. But sort of interesting to me just because it's kind of a run funnel defense. I mean, we saw Pollard and Spears do really well against this Dolphins defense last week. It could be like So the quotes this week, for anybody who doesn't know, were Jared Mayo saying like, yeah, we have to consider, we need to consider starting Antonio Gibson with the fumbling issues. But Gretsch pointed out on Twitter, and I thought this is a good thing to call out, that the fumble happened in the first quarter and Ramondre Stevenson still played the rest of the game last week. So it might just be a coach trying to light a fire under his player.
But he's also trying to light a fire under him because Ramondre has not been good this year, and Gibson has been good. Gibson, I mean, it's a small sample with Gibson, but I mean, he's got he's RB10 in rush yards over expected per game. He's not even getting that many touches. He's RB4 in rush yards over expected per attempt. He's running back 1 in yards per route run. All small sample stuff, but the dude is flashing. And Stevenson has a 0.47 yards per route run, and that's not a small sample. He's out there a lot. He's got 53% route participation this year. So he's not adding much in the receiving game at all.
People forget Antonio Gibson was once a first-round pick in fantasy football.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I don't know. I think like if you're paying $6,000 for Jacoby Brissett starting running back, and there's a chance he might get benched. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of the Deshaun Watson thing where it's like I've got to be playing in a pretty big tournament, and I won't be in big enough field to where I'll play Ramondre this year.
What if you think it's real? Like the quote that maybe we'll think about starting Antonio Gibson. Would you consider Antonio Gibson at 5,100, given that he has been a lot better? It's still a run funnel defense. He's a little bit cheaper. I do wish he was cheaper than he is.
Neil, if I was playing your contests, yes. Like if I was doing, some of the
Millie Maker,
the Millie Maker 3, just like the bigger, larger field, 30,000, 100,000 entries or whatever. Yes.
Okay.
I would.
Yep.
But on a week with Tracy and stuff, that could be, I don't know. It seems tougher to me.
It is. It's getting pretty cute. I think only like the Millie Maker, the stuff where there are like literally hundreds of thousands of entries. That's where you consider this. That's good. Good call. Arizona Cardinals at San Francisco 49ers. The Cardinals have an implied team total of 21.25. That's 17th best on the weekend. 49ers implied team total 28.75. That is the best implied team total of the week. Davis, what are you doing with the Cardinals and or Niners here?
Selling my Cardinals stock at the bottom. They suck. They don't suck. They don't suck, but they just it's just not happening for them. And I don't know if it's Petzig's fault. I don't know if it's Kyler's fault. Kyler's not scrambling at all. He was the first 3 weeks. And then last week, he was just like, all right, I'll just take these sacks. It's weird. I mean, maybe that was just McBride not being in, but here's I don't know if this is hot relative to ownership. Purdy doubles are my favorite play of the week. Purdy's 6% owned. Now Debo obviously is super mega chalk. But God help me, Brandon Ayuk, man. If Brandon Ayuk is such an obviously good leverage play that even I can get there, I think that means that he's just a really good play. And Kittle, incredible. An interesting thing, and I don't know if this is because public-facing sims are not quite there yet, but if you run Purdy, Mason, Debo, Kittle, or sub Debo out for Ayuk, you actually get crazy high sim ROIs, really, really high. You get, and I've noticed this every week, sim labs and stuff. You get Mason and Purdy occurring in high scoring lineups a lot. I don't really know why that is. I probably won't do it.
Maybe they know ball, man. That no one's scoring points. Offense is down. They're just give me San Francisco. Give me the one team I can rely on.
That's basically my theory. Is basically it's if this team scores 35 points, probably means they hammered them passing in the first half and they hammered them running in the second half. And look, Kyler was the most owned player last week, and he's 2% owned this week, and Marvin Harrison's 1%, and McBride is maybe not even 1%. You might even get the point, the decimal in front of Trey McBride's ownership this week. I'm not going to say it's wrong. I always try to think of it like skin in the game. What am I going to do with my own money? I'm probably not going to get there. So maybe it's a do as I say, not as I do thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in Kyler. I think Harrison's very expensive, and so that makes it a little tougher. But I like Harrison a lot this week. Just from I think he will have a good game. And I also do like the Purdy call. I mean, Brock Purdy is just, he's got this reputation, and it's going to take a while for the reputation to change. But the reputation is he's just back there executing plays, getting the ball out quickly. He's not getting the ball out quickly at all. He's got a 3.14 time to throw. Last week he had 3.47 seconds per throw against the Patriots. A tie that was I think the highest in the week, and he tied Lamar Jackson for the highest deep pass rate of the week. So he's like scrambling around, he's making plays. He's got a 10.7 ADOT. He's got a 9.9 average depth of completion. He's a playmaker all of a sudden.
Yeah. I have some stats on that for Purdy, because I noticed the same thing too. The last 2 weeks, it's just been like, God damn, man. Maybe Purdy should get a $300 million contract from the 49ers. Yeah. So this is EPA per play and Kevin Cole's adjusted quarterback efficiency. Basically, this is by leaps and bounds, by like 90%, not 90%, 70% better in adjusted quarterback efficiency, the best Purdy's ever played by Kevin Cole's, the way he adjusted. So like Kevin Cole adjusts based off PFF grade of your teammates, team totals, like all that stuff.
Yards after catch stuff, like how much you're being helped by
100%.
Your teammates. Yeah.
And if you think about it, it actually makes total sense why we'd be seeing that right now, which is that Purdy now just has an average run game. It's not Christian McCaffrey being the best running back in the NFL. It's not getting, 50.
He's also not dumping off to McCaffrey and having him go where a normal running back might get 3 yards. He's getting 20 or whatever,
Yeah. So basically Purdy is playing well. Terrible defense. Yeah. This is the and it's hard to tell how much, like, it'll depend, like, if Drew Dinkmeyer and Leone and stuff, if they flag plant Purdy and then that'll change it.
Yeah.
But if it's kind of not a huge part of content, then yeah.
Yeah, no, I like it quite a bit. I think he's one of the couple like cash game options on the slate also at this price tag, but going kind of low owned in tournaments. Yeah, this might be the team that I have the most targets from: Purdy, Samuel, Kittle. I have Ayuk as an MME play, and then Jordan Mason just projects really well once again this week. How are you guys feeling about the Jordan Mason? I think it's kind of chalky. Are you leaning into that chalk at all?
Yeah, I will have Jordan Mason in some lineups for sure. It's just such a clean setup.
Yep. Anything else? Marvin Harrison, we talked about.
He gets like 26 rushes a week, and Guerrero fumbled last week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Not going anywhere. Yep.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'm gonna. Derrick Henry is gonna beat me, but not Jordan Mason. I'll have Jordan Mason.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. James Conner, the only other player that I have written up as an MME play that I'm sort of interested in, just because the workload is so good. 64 carries. I guess it's not that great, but 64 carries. I think I was kind of thinking maybe they try to run the ball a little bit more just to kind of slow the game down against a really good Niners team in San Francisco. I don't know, not a play that I'm particularly feel particularly strongly about. Not sure how much I'm actually going to get there, but as an MME play, I think James Conner makes a little bit of sense. Let's move on. Another fun one here. Raiders at Broncos. Raiders have an implied team total of 16.5, which is worst on the week. No Devontae Adams for the Raiders. The Broncos implied team total 19.5, 21st on the week. Are you guys playing anybody from this game? Pat, we'll start with you. What's your level of interest in Raiders and Broncos?
Basically none. I don't think I'll literally have anyone from this game in any lineups. I think this game kind of sets up as a potential slog. We saw the Broncos shift to the run last week against the Jets, 49% pass rate when they had a 63% expected pass rate. That hadn't been the way they were operating to begin the season. They've been leaning into the pass, but they managed to pull off a win with just a really kind of slow, grinded out game plan, and that coincided with a horrible game from Nick. So, he gave them no confidence to kind of shift back to the pass here. Cortland Sutton is very much just kind of like, he gets a bunch of the targets. He's got 27% target share. He'll get the targets. Like, how many targets will there even be here? The Raiders will be happy to run the ball. The Raiders are going against a really difficult Broncos defense, and I don't expect them to have much success through the air without Devontae Adams. So it just really feels like a slog to me and not a spot that I want to. I don't even know you're going to get that many pass attempts. So even the defenses here don't look inspiring.
Right.
It's a tough one. Yeah.
Although the Broncos defense is going to be like giga chalk.
Yeah, Broncos defense will definitely be chalk. Probably the cash game defense. This is more of a tournament show.
I'm okay fading them if they're giga chalk, because you're paying what, 3,200? No, 2,900. Okay, yeah.
Tommy S brings up Javonte Williams. I do think Javonte Williams a little bit interesting. Handled 40 of 80 running back carries so far this year, 14 targets on 43.1% route participation. Usually Broncos, you would expect the running backs to be targeted a little bit
They're
more.
not throwing to him, though. McLaughlin's not getting
14,
anything.
yeah.
They're not throwing to the running backs. I don't know why.
I guess Nix is running a little bit more, so maybe just not dumping it off as much. I don't know.
I don't get it.
But nice matchup for Javonte Williams. He's 5,200. Are you guys? Is he a stay away for you? I think I'm sort of into it. Large.
I'm not into it, really.
No, man. Kareem, this is your even you're out on him play. Like, first off, Gretsch wrote a great article this week in Stealing Signals about how, like, maybe Sean Payton doesn't love Javonte Williams, but he is continually giving him the ball in all high leverage situations. Like, you can, like, that.
They're staying together for the kids.
Well, just the idea that, like, oh, Tyler Bidet is going to take over the backfield is like such a stretch, and now he's not even acting. Now it's literally.
Well, honestly, he got hurt. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Might have been.
Javonte still got the first drive. Like, still they split the drives up. I will say, this is like a Javonte. I clicked him some in BRs. I probably won't click him in salary cap DFS. But you want to talk about a clear buy on talent spot? I mean, Bowers was a chalk cash play last week. We all decided we're sick of him, and now Bowers 2%, 3%, whatever. Like,
I like this one.
Bowers could have 11 catches in this game
easily.
Yeah. Bowers is the only play that I listed from the Raiders. This is, kind of a small sample. Don't want to read too much into it. But Broncos defense, in terms of schedule, like stopping the other team from scoring fantasy points, schedule adjusted. Quarterbacks first in the league, stopping the other team from scoring fantasy points. Running backs fourth, wide receivers first, tight ends 20th. So, like, it is a little bit of a from that standpoint, tight end funnel, a little bit of a Broncos defense. Again, small sample size. Don't want to read too much into it, but Brock Bowers, I think, could just get there on PPR stuff. Reasonable price tag, low ownership. Yeah. So I'm with you there.
We need a PPR scam tight end. Like,
we really do.
We really do. Yeah. I mean, if you're putting together a list of players who could have like a 50% target share this week, he's
that's
pretty
right.
high on the
Brock
list.
Bowers easily on that
list. It's like Brian Thomas Jr. and Bowers.
Neighbors if he goes. Yeah.
I've seen other people write up Trey Tucker as a cash game play. I don't know that I get there.
Maybe would have needed it before Tracy, but you don't need it now.
Yeah, I don't think I get there. I don't think I get to Jacoby Myers. I will get to some Javonte Williams. Yeah. Cortland Sutton, I think, bit in play just because the Raiders defense has been so bad. 28th in terms of stopping fantasy points, PPR fantasy points so far this year, schedule adjusted. So it's a nice enough spot that I'll consider Cortland Sutton because he's had a pretty good target share here so far this year, 35 targets on the year. So for me, it's Bowers, Javonte Williams, Cortland Sutton. We're not considering Alexander Mattison even with Zamir White doubtful.
Time to learn Dylan Laube, buddy.
That's right.
I think you could. If White doesn't go, I think you could definitely consider that. I mean, he was already going to get more snaps, and for some reason they're using him in like the goal line a lot. So
it's so weird. Yeah. In play, I guess I wrote this up before we had that news that Zamir White was probably not playing, but I'll have to look at it, think about it a little bit more there on Alexander Mattison. Anything else from this game?
No.
Okay. I think I'm going to go back to Pat first on this one because I think he's gotten all of the boring games so far, and we have a fun one now. We have the Packers and Rams. Yeah. Packers have an implied team total of 26, second best on the week. Rams have an implied team total of 23, tied for 12th best on the week. Kind of a fun game here, Pat. Who do you want to play from this game?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to try to find some places to get different, this would be like one of the things that I've unlocked for myself to go stack up this game that everyone's going to want to play. I'm really liking the Packers side of this as you might expect. The Dontavian Wicks part of this really jumped out to me. He's the cover boy of the walkthrough this week.
Cover boy of mine too. Light the candle.
Yeah. It's he's truly Dontavian's Inferno was the name of the
love it
this week. But if you look at his stuff, it's all very good on a per route basis. Kind of like we were looking at last year. We were excited about him. Hey, if this guy gets more routes, he could really blow up. And we're seeing the same stuff this year. He's got a 27% targets per route run, which is really good. The yards per route run hasn't been there, but it's because of a weak yards per target. He's had some drops. He's slipped on a throw from Love, and it's not just with like Malik Willis or anything. He's been inefficient on his targets with Love as well. But first read target rate of 19% shows you that they're trying to get him the ball when he's out there on the field, and he'll be out there on the field a lot more this week with Christian Watson out and potentially with Romeo Doubs missing with the personal issue and stuff. So he is really, really exciting. Downfield passing game could flow through him. And Jordan Love, 16% deep pass rate, 14% splash zone rate, the deep middle of the field. He is attacking deep with a 10.2 ADOT and goes against this Rams defense. Davis, you mentioned at the top that 0.3 EPA per play allowed, as you were noting with the Commanders defense, is really bad. That is exactly what the Rams are allowing on dropbacks when they get pressure. When they get pressure, they're the worst defense in the league. And it's because they have the slowest time to pressure in the entire league at 3.03 seconds. So you're holding the ball for 2.9 seconds. You're getting the ball out before pressure even arrives. You're attacking deep against a defense that ranks 31st in EPA allowed per dropback, 29th in dropback success rate. They're preventing explosive plays, just 26th in that measure, protecting the splash zone, just 26th there. You can beat this defense. You can beat them deep. You can beat them in ways that are going to generate yards after catch. Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft, all super interesting here.
Pretty key name you just left out there, Bucko.
What I leave out?
Jordan Love.
The first Green Bay Packers wide receiver to have a 100-yard game last season was not mentioned.
Romeo Doubs. Bo Melton?
Bo Melton.
All right.
Bo Melton is $3,300. Everyone wants to light the candle. Everyone wants to get their 33 Jaden Reed points that are coming. Don't get me wrong. They're coming. You can show up to the bank examiner with Jaden Reed. He will convert your Jaden Reed into 33 DraftKings points. Don't get me wrong. No one spent more time this offseason drafting Dontavian Wicks than me. Honestly, that's probably true in terms of man hours spent clicking the button on Dontavian Wicks. I would argue I might have spent the most time clicking his name of any human being alive.
Do you just use the full clock or what?
Yeah, because I'm on streams.
The whole 30 seconds.
I'm sitting there, I'm taking the clock
just
down.
taking it down. I gotta get my ticker. Keeping track of it. That's another 30 seconds.
Well done.
Bo Melton had a 2.68 yards per route run on 98 routes last year. Yeah. I think, again, this is very similar. I'm kind of off brand today. Very similar to the T. Higgins and the Brandon Ayuk thing. If a guy's teammates are going to be that popular, that a guy who's demonstrated skill is going to be like a quarter as owned, I just think we know enough. I mean, maybe this is too 2020 DFS of me, but man, it feels like he's probably he's less expensive than Kraft.
Do we have news on Romeo Doubs? It was just a personal matter. Doubtful now. Yeah,
he hasn't been with the team. Okay. He hasn't practiced all week.
Yeah, as of last night when I was looking, he was still questionable, and it was with a personal matter.
15 minutes ago, they said he's doubtful.
No, that does change.
Is X, like, is he gonna like fill in one for that Dobbs role? I honestly don't know like where he would line up.
No, Wicks is gonna do that now.
Wicks is gonna do that. Okay.
I bet Melton is the Watson.
Is that bad for Wicks if he's the X?
He just gets open, man.
He's just so good.
He doesn't always catch it when he gets open, but he does.
I think that's true. That's true.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I had Bo Melton as an MME play, but maybe with Romeo Doubs now doubtful, maybe I need to move him into a target. I like that call out. Yeah, man, this game is just so fun overall. Josh Jacobs, I don't think we've talked about either. 71 of 109 running back carries.
There's your ruin the fun play.
Ruin the fun
There it
play.
is.
Yep, there it is. Wet blanket Neil bringing up Josh Jacobs. 8 targets on the year for Jacobs. I think he could be.
He goes
could
in the Jerome Ford, Deontay Johnson, Derrick Henry lineup where it's all the guys that you're like, yeah, totally good play. See no reason not to do it. You don't click them, and then you look at, oh, this guy's third in the spy, and he had Josh Jacobs in the flex. God, why didn't I do that?
Yeah, right.
Why didn't I do that?
He has Henry, Ford, and Jacobs. Neil, was it you pointed out that James Conner would be kind of the way to play the Cardinals game to fail, and obviously the game didn't fail, but I still think that was a sharp way to play that, and that would be, I think, similar to this, where Jacobs would maybe be.
It doesn't even have to fail. It's just the Rams can't punch back. It's basically right, like Stafford, like they got no fight.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Tyler has asked a few times. He did send a super chat, so I do want to answer this. I know Davis Thank already answered in chat, but he says, I have Love and Reed. Would you pick up Wicks or play Dell? If Wicks, I would have to drop Love for Geno. I don't really understand. Is this DFS?
You don't got to drop Love.
Just
what
does
that mean?
If you're in the type of league where Wicks is on the wire, just drop Tank Dell.
I wouldn't drop Tank Dell.
You would if this is the type of league where Dontavian Wicks is sitting here on first come first serve
fair enough.
on Friday, you're dropping Tank Dell for Wicks.
I think that's actually right.
Yeah, that might be. But
I don't get the Love Geno thing.
I don't understand the question fully. Why would you need to drop Love?
Because he doesn't want to drop Tank Dell. But I'm telling him to drop Tank Dell.
Why would you just not wait?
Well, don't drop Love for Geno. Play Love with Wicks if you're going to play Wicks.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I wouldn't do it if you have to drop Love to Geno, because part of the reason we like Wicks is that
guys, you clearly haven't spent enough time streaming. I know exactly what this guy means. He doesn't want to drop Dell. He thinks that Geno is a better rest of season quarterback than Love.
I see.
Oh, I think that's wrong.
I'm telling
him.
Agree
with that? I don't agree with that.
I disagree. But I'm telling him, if this is the type of league where Wicks is out there, just drop Tank Dell.
If this is the type of league, if he's currently carrying 2 quarterbacks, drop one of them and don't have any Love.
Also that. Okay, I think we answered the question. Right. We've given
he got his money's worth on the super chat, I think.
Yeah. What about the Rams side of this game? We're all super into the Packers. The Rams pretty interesting to me as well, but I'll let you guys tell me who you like on the Rams side of it. Pat, is there anybody that you particularly like on the Rams?
I mean, it looks like we're going to get ownership on Jordan Whittington, which is not.
That's going to go down. Like whatever you're looking at right now, it's going to go down because it's not accounting for literal 47% owned Dontavian Wicks.
Okay. And then in that case, I do think Whittington, although the problem is, if you have Whittington, it might be correlated with Wicks as chalk as well. So maybe it all just evens out. But I think Whittington is interesting. Just given he came in 97% route participation. He's got 4.5 ADOT. And so I think I said, on the Legendary Upside podcast this morning that it's kind of like you're getting Matthew Stafford's Wan'Dale Robinson. That's sort of the potential play. And man, there are targets available here. So he's interesting to me. I think Tutu is interesting as well. Is kind of the downfield wide receiver. Demarcus Robinson, sorry, Neil, does not seem to be the guy. All
right, I'm ready. I'll capitulate. He's had all the opportunities. No Cooper Kupp, no Puka Nacua. You win, Davis. You were right. I was wrong. Demarcus Robinson sucks.
I literally, Neil, I take no joy in this. I'm having such a bad best ball year. Like I can't
Me
even
too.
dunk.
Yeah.
I can't even dunk on the haters and losers, of which there are many, because Rashee Rice tore his ACL.
Would prefer if the hater and losers Venn diagram is a little too far apart.
Yeah. Sadly, the haters and losers.
The haters and losers are looking like this right now.
Yeah.
Do you know the advance rate of teams that have Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara on them?
That have both of them?
80%.
It's 89%. It's 89%.
That is insane.
And those people, those 89% people, they love to tune into my streams and tell me how fucking stupid I
am. Yeah. Does not feel great right now. The sharps are of course taking Mark Andrews every time at the 4 or 5 turns.
So, most underpriced player in the pool because it's very important to get a part-time tight end in round 5.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been pretty brutal. Demarcus Robinson not saving me. Jordan Whittington, stepped into, led the team, 87.5% route participation, 8 targets last week. That all looks good. Kyron Williams looks like a pretty great play. 7,600 on DraftKings, 84 FanDuel, 73 of the 91 running back carries for the Rams, 14 targets on the year. Just a great role. Colby Parkinson to me is a great point per dollar play, just 3,700 on DraftKings, third on the Rams in route participation, tied for second with 18 targets. Tutu Atwell. Anything else we need to say about the Rams here?
I mean, Kyron scores 35-14. There's 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Kyron Williams just ran for -1 yard again, but somehow he has 27 fantasy points. Like, you don't know how it happened, but he still got there.
Kyron Williams runs for a -1 yard touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
I didn't even know that works.
Yeah. But it worked for Kyron. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is probably my favorite game environment overall. So I don't want. I guess we'll do the recap at the end of our favorite plays here, so we don't have to do it now. But yeah, lots of goodness from this Packers Rams game. Tyler sent us another super chat. So he says, "I have Jaden Reed." Sounds like his concern is having the double stack.
They project for like 1 billion points, like a literal billion.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. This
week.
I
like it. I like it. Lean into that. Have play love Reed and Wicks. I think that's great. All right. On to Giants at Seahawks, and of course we now have Tyrone Tracy opened up with Singletary out. Giants have at least had an implied team total of 18.5, which is 26 out of 28 on the week. Seahawks implied team total of 25, which is 4th overall out of 28 on the week. And Davis, I'll throw it to you. Who do you like in this Giants and Seahawks game?
Kenneth Walker, I actually like more than Metcalf and JSN. Geno is projecting right now to be the cash game quarterback. I'm going to try to get to Purdy. And so I just combined Brock and Purdy into one name. I just feel like the floor could be fairly low for Geno because I don't think the Giants are going to be able to push back at all. And if it just so happens that all their touchdowns in the first 3 quarters are rushing, let's say Ken Walker gets one, Charbonnet gets one, whatever, or they get a defensive touchdown and Geno is getting 13 points here, not that Geno is a bad play. And if that floods into ownership, Geno doubles could be interesting. It kind of depends on what the ownership is, but Ken Walker, man, he is like, I'm playing Ken Walker over Kyron. I'm playing Ken Walker. I might even have Ken Walker over Mason this week. It just, dude, he is him. Like, everything I thought about Ken Walker in the offseason is coming true.
I've never been a huge Ken Walker guy, but we're sitting here, we're looking at the top of the leaderboard, and it's the Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs in the flex, Jerome Ford team. Ken Walker is how we're coming back and winning the GPP.
Ken Walker is how the slap fight back. You're so right.
Ken Walker is how we beat Derrick Henry.
He's the running back for guys who don't like running backs.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I like the Ken Walker call a lot. I'm definitely going to have him this week. Yeah, I mean, he obviously looks so good, but the setup is potentially just like they're going to run all over them by the end of the – and you're looking at like an explosive runner, Obviously you get that with Henry and stuff, but he's not as expensive. So, yeah, I'm pretty into the Kenneth Walker play. I think, Geno and DK look pretty interesting here as well. But you have, a little bit of an issue where the targets are spread out, at least somewhat, between DK, JSN, and Lockett. And Lockett is not dead. Like, Lockett's stuff looks okay. He's fallen off, but he's kind of like plateauing. It's still like somewhat useful. So, it would be a lot easier if we knew that there was like a clear top 2 in the passing game instead of a trio.
Yeah, does make it a little bit tougher with the Seahawks. Great spot, but hard to want to lean into it that much. I'm leaning into DK a little bit, but yeah, could definitely see DK not do that much because it's JSN and it's Lockett. Their paths to failure there pretty easily. What about the other side of the game? And we have Malik Neighbors out. How do we feel about Malik Neighbors being out as far as it affects Wan'Dale Robinson? First of all, does Darius Slayton come into play and Tyrone Tracy? To me, those are the 3 that I think we need to at least talk about. Those 3. So let's start with the Wan'Dale stuff. How do we feel about Wan'Dale without Malik Neighbors there?
Bad. You don't want this. Wandale, we saw what happened with Wandale as the number 1 wide receiver for an offense last year. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was really bad. Wandale is set up in the perfect role, which is every play, Neighbors is the first read. When the safety comes over on Neighbors' side and stops him from being open, then Wandale's wide open. He catches his pass for 6 yards. Maybe twice a year he will break that first tackle and score a cool touchdown. People forget he was recruited as a running back to the University of Nebraska. I would never forget, but people do forget. This is like the worst possible spot to play Wandale Robinson without his starting running back, without Neighbors, with Darius Slayton and Jalen. Like, if you were going to play a Giants wide receiver, Hyatt is the only one who can do. He's obviously not even 1/10 as good, but he can at least run the same routes that Neighbors runs. Not that I'm telling you to play Jalen Hyatt, because I'm not. Yeah.
Can he even run those routes?
Dude, Hyatt, I think Hyatt is going to be a second contract guy. Hyatt is going to show up. I don't know. Hyatt's going to show up with the Arizona Cardinals a year, 2 years from now, and we're going to be like, dude, Hyatt can kind of play.
Interesting.
I honestly was not at all convinced until the delivery of that line.
That was good. That was great delivery. I'm sold. Yeah. So we're jamming Hyatt this week. No, you're still not into Hyatt. You're still not playing him with Neighbors out.
I think you're honestly kind of playing with fire, even with Tracy, because again,
you are a little.
Yeah.
This is you're gonna learn a name, buddy. Like right now, you guys are about as nerdy as it gets. Can you name the third running back for the New York Football Giants?
Eric Gray.
No.
Yeah.
The guy they're going to be calling up to be the third running back.
No. Brightwell?
So sadly, I can do this because I really am this type of person, because I'm the type of person who reads athletic blurbs. Dante Miller.
Oh.
Didn't know that.
Dude, what's his nickname? Turbo? Or
Turbo or Speedy or something?
Yeah.
He got some camp buzz.
I had a guy messaging me on Discord like, yo, you got to keep an eye on Turbo. So maybe Turbo is maybe we learn that name. Maybe we all learn about Turbo this week, which is bad for Tracy Chalk.
I learned about Ryan Flournoy in my Discord, and that has not benefited me so far.
You don't have you don't have 7% Flournoy, dude.
I have a few shares. I have a few shares of Flournoy, not a ton of Ryan Flournoy.
We're all gonna lose anyway.
Cowboys are going to be learning Flournoy this week with Cooks.
That's right. Well, we'll talk about that game. It's FanDuel only. But let's anything else, I guess, before we move on to that game on this. So we don't like this for Wandale. Tyrone Tracy, he's cheap, but he's not like free. He's 4,800 on draft. No, sorry, I'm on FanDuel. Never mind. So maybe a little bit better on.
It's 4,300 on DraftKings.
Oh, that is
pretty much free.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, and I tend to agree with Davis about the Wandale thing. Like watching that game, the Thursday night game, we were doing stuff, with the pick'em slips and stuff on that, and it was like we're looking at kind of the double team rates and everything, and Neighbors draw so much. And watching that game, it was so clear that they were like, you can have the Wandale stuff.
You can have whatever you want, Wandale.
Yeah, but because they were saying Neighbors, and Neighbors are still getting there, but like we are concerned about what Neighbors can do. We could not care less about these Wandale targets. But I mean, if like the Giants have to use Wandale now, like I want Wandale like being ignored. I don't want any defensive attention on him. And you could have that this week.
Don't even put Wandale in motion. Don't even alert the defense to his
you want him to forget that he's there. He's trying to blend in. Put him in camouflage.
He's so small, he can just hide.
That's right.
Yeah, he just hides behind the linebacker. Pops out. Yeah,
Pops
that's what
out.
you need. Yeah. But with the defense paying attention to him, I don't have much interest.
And it's not like he's going to be targeted. I wouldn't expect he's going to be targeted that much more. He would be that list of players who could have a 50% target share that you mentioned. I think Wanda would have to make that list, but I also think it's pretty unlikely that he sees that drastic of a difference. He already has like a 25.5% target share on the year, which is like 18th best in the NFL. I forget what the number is. I wrote it up, but just those two getting all the targets. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's probably a good thing. Like, I think the range of outcomes wider without Neighbors there. But yeah, I don't love the lack of Neighbors for Wandale. Tyrone Tracy, I do like the price tag. Have to at least consider it. Probably a cashy play, I would guess. I think that's enough on this game. Final game of the slate is FanDuel only. Dallas Cowboys at Pittsburgh Steelers. Cowboys have an applied team total of 20.75. That is 18th best on the week. Steelers 23.25. That's tied for 9th best on the week. Pat, any interest in going to the Cowboys or Steelers at all on FanDuel?
Well, the Steelers are a little interesting on offense. I don't play on FanDuel, so I don't know, like, in terms of the prices and stuff, what we're really looking at. But if the Cowboys have been really bad against the run, and obviously the Steelers really want to run the ball, and they haven't been that good against the pass. The time to pressure, they're 28th there. They're dealing with a bunch of injuries, so it seems like a pretty high upside spot for Justin Fields again. And one thing with Fields, like we see sometimes with these run heavy offenses, that like if they can operate the way they want to, now we have explosiveness in the passing game with Fields as a runner and with Pickens, that the spots where they're going to run a lot doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to be productive through the air. Like, you don't necessarily want the Steelers to be forced to pass because they're one-dimensional around the thing they don't want to do. You want them to be able to play action and have a really good running game and kind of be like playing their style of football. So this actually sets up, I think, as a game where they can do that.
Davis, any interest?
Jalen Tolbert, just like I was actually arguing about this with Gretch and I think Corain in one of our group chats. I'm like pretty into Jalen Tolbert just conceptually, just like as a concept. Jalen Tolbert, he's running a lot of routes. He had a bunch of the deep targets in week 2. Like, the other thing is if he plays well here, like, I think the coaching staff would actually love for him to play well here, so they could just woodshed Cooks. So they could just be like, Brandon, really take your time with this knee infection. We just really want you to be healthy. We don't, please take your time. There's also rumors that the Cowboys are in this wide receiver trading market. Again, another reason they would really like Tolbert to play well, so they don't have to fork out Devontae Adams, or just even like Jalen Hyatt, the aforementioned Jalen Hyatt. Like, just don't have to bring anyone in. Hunter Lupke,
Gosh, yeah, no.
If Hunter Lupke was 4K, which I'm sure he's not, but if you have the fan, like if he was like what Akers was in week 2, I would play him, because a $4,000 guy on FanDuel lets you play all the jams.
4,200 Lupke.
God, man.
But we have, Tyrone Tracy is 4,800.
Okay, then sure. Yeah, he's. I was just assuming that was classic FanDuel, where like Singletary was somehow $1,000 mispriced for his role, but Tyrone Tracy was $1,000 too expensive for his role.
Yeah,
it's just like that's It's don't even get me started on FanDuel pricing.
Yeah, it's bad. It's not great. All right, I think that's probably all we need to say about this game. Not one that we're really targeting here, unless either of you. Davis, did you want to go to Fields Pickens at all?
I just feel like Fields is just now like mandatory. Like, you got to think about it.
Think about
week.
it.
Yeah. What is he? What's the price?
He is on FanDuel 7,600. Pickens is 6,000. Pickens is actually like showing up in optimal lineups at a pretty high rate.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So definitely
I'd be into
worth
that.
considering. Yeah. All right. Well, that is the final game of the slate. So let's do just a recap of some of our favorites. Favorite stacks. Let's start with just like overall. Who are the stacks that we're leaning into? Whether it be just like quarterback and pass catchers, or if you want to include full game stacks. Who are we leaning into this week? If either of you has one in mind, just throw it out there.
Purdy, Debo, Kittle is my number one. That's who I'll be complaining about next week.
I like it.
I think Burrow and Higgins is maybe my favorite. Outside of the love, and honestly, the love triple is probably my favorite.
Ooh,
but
triple.
Can I pull it off? Yeah, can I pull it off with that being, with all three pieces being chalky? can I figure out lineups that actually are plus EV with it? But that would be my favorite would be all three: Reed, Kraft, and Dontavian Wicks. Probably not Bo Melton, but Davis did. I'm going to think through the Bo Melton part of that too. But
I think it's
Love
worth
is my
thinking
favorite. But if I need to get a little off the beaten path, then Burrow and T would probably be my favorite.
Yeah,
Lamar and Flowers though is interesting to me
Dude,
too.
if you play Lamar and Flowers, you can play the highest owned player at every other position. Like Flowers is going to be like 1.8% owned.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a low owned stack. I like that one. Yeah, I mean I think I'm going to lean into the Packers one. I mean, Love is actually coming in pretty low, like single digit ownership on Jordan Love. So it isn't like you are leaning into the chalk that much with that stack. So I think I'm largely going to be stacking it the same way as you, Pat, with Jaden Reed, with Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft. The triple stack, I like that idea. I like the idea of really leaning into the game stacks this week. I think Bo Melton is somebody that I'll consider also, but I also I'll probably include if you do a triple stack, would you want to have multiple bringbacks? Would you force at least one bringback? How would you approach the rest of the game if you have that triple stack? Would you take any Rams there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be interested in Tutu. I think you could play Kyron. I think you could do Whittington as well, although that kind of depends a little bit on the ownership. And if it's all just flowing to Dontavian Wicks, then maybe it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think bringbacks there make sense, especially the receivers because they're cheap. So, you're kind of just the salary relief might be useful.
Yeah, it's not a particularly expensive stack. I mean, Love a little bit expensive, Reed a little bit expensive, but Wicks is pretty cheap. Kraft is cheap. Melton's cheap. The Ram side of it, outside of Kyron, is relatively cheap. So it's a game stack that really great environment for fantasy points. Not a lot of people getting there. What about favorite value plays?
I mean, Tracy is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Melton, no sarcasm, no cap. I really do think Melton is a really good play. Tucker Kraft, Brenton Strange, if Evan Ingram. There's not really like stone cold punts, but the thing is that Tyrone Tracy kind of like if you do Tyrone Tracy, min tight end, punish tight end, and the Broncos defense, there's not really. I guess if you're not playing Henry, I mean, you could kind of just get in whoever you want there. Like you're not going to really have to because there isn't a Jefferson, there's not a Barkley, there's not a Kamara, like there's not like a Tyreek you're having to get in this week, which really changes how lineups are built.
Yeah,
I would say Josh Downs, 5,100.
Yeah,
not super cheap, but he's definitely interesting. DeAndre Swift, I think, is interesting again. Is kind of playing it through the Bears. 5,700, another not going to be the most popular of the cheap running back options.
Yep. I like that. Any other overarching thoughts on the slate? If anybody has any more, I mean, we've gone game by game, so we've kind of talked about it all. But if you have any other final thoughts you want to make, let's do that before we close out here. Either of you have anything? It's fine if you don't.
Well, we didn't actually really touch on one thing that could be huge this week, which is that our brains are all programmed like no one scores points anymore. Always play a running back in the flex.
Yeah.
Is that different now? Like, did we have enough meta analysis from 8 teams scored 30 or more points last week, and then we just had 2 teams throw for a combined 750 yards and 8 touchdowns combined? 9 touchdowns?
If Kyle Pitts is getting over 40 yards, then the league is healthy.
Which then means are we back to playing wide receivers in flex? Like are we back to playing instead of playing Chuba Hubbard, are you playing Deontay Johnson in flex? Or instead of Josh Jacobs, are we just playing Jaden Reed? Stuff like that.
Maybe. Yeah. And I do tend to think I'm leaning more into I still feel like maybe it's haves and have-nots in terms of who's going to put up points. But I do like kind of heavy correlation, I think, this week. Like you mentioned, I like the Purdy stuff a lot as well. And, that plus Mason could be cool. I think you can, like, I like as I mentioned, the triples with Love, but I think, you know, the 49ers stuff is pretty interesting. So finding some of these spots where you can like do a little bit like overstacking, I'm going to at least experiment with that this week. Along those lines of like, maybe there's going to be some offenses that really hit this week.
Actually, I think it's actually, I didn't ask Davis this question. I asked Pat, but Davis, if you're double stacking the Niners, are you going to force a bring back from the Cardinals? It's tougher with the Cardinals than with the Rams.
I don't force bringbacks anymore.
Okay.
Like so what my process is, I generate the lineups and then I test the sim ROI, or maybe I'll create 10 lineups with a rule of must be pretty double stacked. And if they naturally occur in the higher sim ROIs, then I'll play it.
Yep.
You don't get that stuff very rarely. In fact, adding a bringback will oftentimes like super nuke your sim ROI because you're playing a player who projects poorly.
Yep. And that's probably what we're getting from the Cardinals in general this week. So yeah, it makes sense to not force that. All right. I think that does it for the analysis of the slate. Davis, where can people find your stuff coming up?
They can watch all my streams this week, youtube.com/Davis_Matic. They can check out all my premium fantasy football content on patreon.com/takecast. I'll be live on Sunday morning, go live early in the morning. And I literally just do this. I just run the sims and I'm like, all right, I'm putting this lineup in this contest. So if you ever want to know what I'm actually playing in the contest, I'll literally just show you. I'll literally just put the lineup in and click submit. So you'll at least know one actual lineup that you're playing against in these contests.
Update your fields. Yeah.
Update your fields in the sims. Yeah.
Pat, how about you? What do you have going on at Legendary Upside or anywhere else?
Yeah, legendaryupside.com got the walkthrough out. As I mentioned, Octavian Wicks is the cover boy. That game plus the London game are above the paywall. So completely free. Check it out. Join the newsletter. You'll always get the free games as part of that. And I also narrate that article if you're into audio, as I assume you may be if you're listening to this. Premium subscribers get a premium podcast feed where I narrate the walkthrough. Also have Matt Irby's Quick Slant articles on the Sunday night and Monday night game coming out. Weekly rankings will be updated up until kickoff. Stephanie Miller's waiver wire piece had a couple of good articles by Sacrilegious on best ball recently, and rest of the season rankings as well. LegendaryUpside.com.
Good stuff. All right, check out Davis's stuff. Check out Pat's stuff. I released my tournament article already. Going to have to change with some updated news. But you can find my game by game breakdown at 4for4. Also a cash game article, which I need to edit heavily because things keep changing today. But we'll have that out today as well. So keep your eye out if you are a 4for4 sub for my cash game breakdown and my game by game breakdown for tournaments. Other than that, we will catch you guys next week. Thank you for hanging out with us. See you in week 6.